Hey YouTube, welcome back to Tinker with Tools. Tonight we are going to be covering the Loadout and my brand new Veto Pro Pac bag. So let's go ahead and get right into that on Tinker with Tools. So if you missed last week's video, I actually went ahead and covered the different Veto Pro Pac bags that I've used over the last year, and then what I decided to buy and try out this year. Veto Pro Pac Tech-MC, which is for the first time an enclosed bag from them. I previously have used all open tops. I had hesitations about the enclosed bag previously, but as I've used the open top one over the years, there are some things I don't like about how much dust and debris can get in there when you're working. So I'll be sure to cover those after I go through the specific loadouts and what I do and don't like about the bag already. Now everything in this bag is something that I have personally selected and purchased with my own money. All the items in the bag are going to be linked down below. There were a couple that I couldn't find exact product things because some of the items I have are a little bit older, but I've gone ahead and provided a link for newer models. Now let's go ahead and get started on the outside of the bag and kind of dive into what I have. The first item on the front of the bag, I do have clipped to just one of the quick access rings, the Vessel Quick Catcher 3-piece bit holder. And with each of these, you are just going to have a little quick insert bit retention that is going to allow you to store a couple bits on the outside. The carabiner locks into place, so it's not going to accidentally come off if it gets bumped, and the bits are nice and securely stored. Now, as we move over to the right-hand side of the bag, some of the smaller outside pockets are perfect for storing this. This is a Milwaukee Inksol. You could very easily put a Sharpie in there, but I do like having a black permanent marker. The next item I have in here is going to be this from Ox Tools. It's the Tough Carbon marking pencil, and it's going to be very similar to something like the Pika Dry. The nice thing about these is I do love having this little holster, if you will, that I can kind of put on my pants pocket when I'm going to be doing a lot of marking, measuring, and different things. And then that just kind of slides in and out with ease. The other nice thing is there's always going to be a sharpener right on this little holster. I do also like that when you buy this one, it comes with different colors of lead. So if you're ever marking on darker wood, if I'm working with walnut wood, for example, I can go ahead and mark on there in a white pencil and have it still show up nice and easy to see. Now for tape measures, I'm currently using this Stabila BM300. Now for the work of measuring that I'm doing mostly in a shop or in a DIY environment, 16 feet is going to be more than enough, but I like how compact the 16-foot tape measures are. It does feature both imperial and metric measurements on it. The other thing I really love is the clip on the back. It is just super easy to get on and off of your pants pocket or on a tool belt, and it just clips nice and easy, but stays pretty secure there. All right, moving around to the back of the bag. This pocket is one that I really just haven't found anything that I really like to put in there, but what I've gone ahead and done is actually just stored a couple of nitro gloves in there. Moving around to the other side, I do have a couple of bits here. Pocket holes in any sort of cabinetry that I work are pretty common, so I did include a 6-inch number 2 square drive, and then I also included just a 6-inch magnetic bit extension that is going to allow me to kind of have greater reach on standard 1-inch bits. On the tape roll, I have gone ahead and attached a thing of electrical tape, but then also I found online these 1-inch wide rolls of Gorilla Tape. I was honestly just looking for some way to have duct tape on there, and the Gorilla Tape kind of fits that bill, but having it in a 1-inch roll, it does take up a whole lot less space. Now moving on to lights, I do just have a pen light from Coast. This is the Coast G20. It's a really inexpensive pen light. It's like $9.97 at Home Depot, but one of the things I like about it is you can actually upgrade it to a rechargeable battery. This one, albeit kind of inexpensive, really does work quite well. Now, because that is a very focused beam of light, I wanted to have something when I do need to illuminate a slightly larger area, but if I'm being honest, it kind of came down to not having a ton of room in the bag for a lot of good lighting. So I am actually trying out a couple of different smaller lights. What I ended up actually also getting was this Woobin E7, which you can just get off Amazon. And this one is actually a dual light design. We'll kind of turn it on. And there are also a couple of different light modes in there. It can get pretty darn bright. All right, so now we're gonna go ahead and open up the front pouch of the bag. The first thing I put in here was the Knipex Cobalt compact bolt cutters. I went back and forth between this and like the Weha BiCut. They both cut pretty similar, so it wasn't really a decision of which one I liked more or less. Now, the next two items are kind of a pair, if you will, but basically I went ahead and got 7¼ inch versions of the Knipex Cobra and then also the Knipex Pliers wrench. Now, I mentioned that there are some limitations with this bag in terms of the different heights you can store, but I found that the 7¼ inch versions gave me a little bit better access inside the bag to be able to store them. It still gets the job done for the most of the work that I do. Now, obviously, having the Cobra just gives you a really good set of pliers that really grips onto stuff, and then the pliers wrench is something that I was a little late to the game on, but as I've gotten used to it, this honestly is one of the most useful tools that I put in here, so having one of those in the bag was a must-have for me. Next up, I did just want a pair of needle nose pliers, which is the Weha 8-inch long nose pliers. And they're just a really nice kind of lightweight, but very nice and long precision set of pliers. In the past, in my bag, especially the bigger bags I have, I've included a pair of lineman pliers. And it's probably just not really all that necessary for the work that I do when I can accomplish most of it with the Knipex forged wire strippers. I love that they are spring loaded, but have a locking mechanism on them. So you can go ahead and lock them closed when you're not using them. They can do 12 to 20 gauge stranded wire or 10 to 16 gauge solid wire. They do have a nice cutter down on the bottom. You can obviously cut different outlet plate screws and stuff to the size you need. And so really it just kind of becomes an all-in-one option if I ever have to wire up an outlet or do any sort of simple electrical work. So it kind of is a combination plier, if you will, that can get a lot of different stuff done. All right, and then next up, I do always have a magnetic stud finder. This is the Stud Buddy. I've also used one from C.H. Hansen that also works well and is a little bit more compact, but I absolutely love the magnetic stud finders. Found that I've made less holes in the wall using one of these versus using kind of an electric stud finder, and it takes up less space, and it's just dead simple. Never have to replace a battery, never have to worry about anything. I really think this is the way to go. All right, next up, I have this Icon swivel head 1/4-inch ratchet. Everything in the bag is going to be 1/4-inch drive in terms of sockets and that sort of thing, and I find that having the swivel head on there just kind of allows you to have kind of multi-function tool that can do a lot of different things, and that really starts to help out. Now, I went with the one from Icon. You can get something that appears to be almost exactly the same from Tekton for about $7 or $8 cheaper on Amazon. Of course, Pittsburgh also makes one that is essentially the same function. Moving up to the front pocket, I do have from Crescent Wisp these utility titanium shears, and they're just kind of a really stubby little scissor. I use these a lot when I do irrigation work in my yard, being able to kind of snip off drip lines and stuff. I find that they're just really awesome for a lot of different applications, and they store in the bag super nice. Now, I mentioned that I do some measuring and marking, and so I wanted to have something to kind of be able to mark lines with. So I ended up putting a little 6-inch combination square. This one's from Empire. You can get them from just about any other company. Considered going with the 4.5-inch little carpenter square from Milwaukee, but this one just kind of ended up in the bag, and I think it fits pretty nice, and so more than likely it's what's going to stay in the bag. All right, now in terms of hex keys, I do have a set of metric hex plus from Vera that is going to have kind of your ball ends on one side there, the shorter, stubbier ones, but they are super nice. I haven't been able to get on Amazon and find an Imperial version of this. You can get them from KC Tool, I just haven't ordered from there. They are by no means cheap, and so in the meantime, I've just been including this Imperial version of hex keys from Weha. I do like having kind of the standalone with the ball end on one side, so eventually I think I'll upgrade to it, but for now, these are pretty compact and do the job as well. All right, and then I mentioned how everything in the bag is going to be 1/4-inch drive. I've talked about these before, but they're just the little Makita impact socket rails for 1/4-inch drive. Once again, this is my metric sockets. I do have SAE sockets on the other side that we'll show you in a little bit later. I know I'm not going to be doing a lot of heavy duty stuff with this, but they're just nice that they can be used both on the impact driver and then also with the socket. I have a Klein Tools non-voltage contact tester. This one's nice and compact and does the trick pretty well. Now, next up is going to be from Bosch. I do have just a 165-foot laser distance measure. This is kind of what I use when I need to be able to measure something larger than 16 feet. And this one is nice and compact, probably about 4 years old at this point. It's got some wear and tear on it. Probably replace it at some point, but if I'm being honest, it does the job. You can get an upgraded model of this for about $70, but I find if you actually wait until Black Friday, you can usually get a laser distance measure from one of the brands on sale for about $40 to $50. So now we're moving around to the back side of the bag. I do just keep a very inexpensive little $5 or $6 Johnson torpedo level in here. Now at some point I do want to upgrade this to maybe a slightly nicer model, maybe an all metal one, but for right now, honestly, it does the trick. I do like having just kind of an electric screwdriver, especially if I'm going to be removing outlet covers or just kind of repetitive screws. For right now, I have the Vessel electric screwdriver, and it's not super torque heavy, but it does just have a forward and reverse switch. I've considered and I have at times carried around the DeWalt gyroscopic screwdriver in here. It's a little bit bigger, a little bit heavier, both relatively similar. The gyroscopic maybe is a little bit more enjoyable to use sometimes, but overall they accomplish the same task. This kept it a little bit lighter. Continuing on the theme of screwdrivers, I do have this 27-in-1 precision screwdriver from Klein. This is really one of the better precision screwdrivers that I've found because it does hold all the bits in the handle, so you are going to have a ton of different little micro bits or precision bits, if you will. Now, Klein does sell another version of their precision screwdriver where you actually have the bits separate, but for the space savings, I think that's good enough for me. Now, if you have seen in the past, I did my definitive guide to ratcheting screwdrivers, and I've I've tested over 25 different ratcheting screwdrivers, and the one I always kind of keep coming back to is going to be the LTT screwdriver. I have actually been using this now for well over a year. It does carry 12 bits in the handle. The ratcheting mechanism is supreme, and you just have a lot of control on it. I absolutely love it for the work that I do. If you haven't checked out that definitive guide to ratcheting screwdrivers, I'll make sure to have it linked above, but go ahead and check it out because it's awesome. And there are a lot of great options out there should you not want that one. You do need a utility knife in a bag like this, I think. And so I've gone for space savings just with a Milwaukee. It also has the screwdriver in the handle. You can't really go wrong with a Milwaukee Fastback. As I've talked about in past Loadout videos, I do just like having a standard or fixed shaft screwdriver just for different things. And right now, this is what I'm rocking in here. They're these Wera demolition screwdrivers, so they have metal all the way through. They do just have a nice fit and finish. I actually really like the Wera handle, and then being able to use them for multi-purposes, almost like a demolition screwdriver if I need to, that is nice as well. Now, another thing I just kind of have stored on the side is going to be zip ties. Having zip ties in here does allow you to kind of do a temporary fix of something, so having zip ties in there is a must for me. Now, I mentioned that I had some SAE sockets elsewhere. That's because I absolutely love the Wera Tool Check Plus. This is the Imperial version. The nice benefit of the Tool Check Plus is you do kind of have almost a built-in little stubby screwdriver as well. And then it does also have the little 1/4-inch drive mini ratchet. But if you haven't ever seen these, they also then have, I think it's 27 or 26 different bits that are going to be up here. They're high quality bits. I absolutely love them. And then you do have the sockets on the bottom. All right, we're on the home stretch. Right now, this is what I'm carrying in here, which is going to Milwaukee M12 Surge. The main reason why I went with this over something like one of my installation drill drivers that I love so much, it's a little bit more compact. It's still nice and quiet. The Surge, I think, is actually even a nicer to use impact driver than even just the standard M12 impact driver. I don't have any spare batteries in the bag. Most of the work I do is going to be at my house. And so if I know I'm going to need a spare battery, I might go ahead and grab one and throw it in there. We do also have a little notepad. The paper is actually a little bit waterproof or weather resistant, which is nice if you're working outside. The other thing I really like about this one is instead of just being simple lined paper, it is double-sided graph paper, but having a nice little notepad with a slightly harder plastic cover on the outside is nice and just allows me to have a place to kind of take measurements or put notes in. Now, the last thing, I do just have a pair of mechanics work gloves. These are their Speed Knit work gloves, very inexpensive, and so you can just put a pair in there and always have a pair of gloves with you. All right, so there is the tour of the bag. Now, I mentioned at the beginning that I have noticed some pros and cons to the bag, so I want to kind of cover what I've gone through and noticed in now the near 2 weeks of using this bag. So first off, you can obviously go with a variety of bags from Veto Pro Pac. There were reasons why I wanted the smaller one and didn't want to go up to the MCT, which is going to be 2 inches taller, but that decision does come with the trade-offs. As I mentioned several times, liking nice compact tools for here. If you want more of the full-size versions of the tools, meaning you want a 10-inch set of Knipex Cobras, you're probably going to want to go with the full-size MCT, which is going to give you that extra little bit of height. The biggest place that I notice it is going to be on these back pockets here. Because this lip overhangs, especially these two corner pockets, it's just a little bit more difficult getting stuff into there. So for that reason, it has kind of influenced the decision of what tools I've put in here. Now, having the more compact bag does come with some benefits because overall, this is a much more small and compact option than what I have been carrying with my open tool tote. I find that no matter how big the bag is, I'm going to fill it up with all the different tools that I can fit in there. So forcing myself to have a slightly smaller, more compact bag has reduced the weight a little bit. Now, the other thing that I've found myself doing is I have actually ditched the shoulder strap on this bag. And when I say ditched, it's just over here. I can put it back on if I ever want to, but I'm actually kind of liking not having the shoulder strap on it. And because it's a smaller, more compact bag, I don't feel it's as necessary to have the shoulder strap on it. Overall, I'm still really happy with my decision about this bag, and I do think there are going to be things that annoy me over the year, but I think I might be sold on kind of the more closed, maybe slightly smaller, more compact bag. Perhaps next year I'm going to go out and buy a slightly bigger one to kind of see how that is. Now, as I mentioned, I really do think the spring is the best time to buy one of these Veto Pro Pac bags. I have no relation with them, but if you're going to pay top dollar for a bag, you might as well get some extra benefit with it. So the spring promo goes from March 1st all the way through May 31st. All the details are going to be linked down below. The one thing I will caution is if you're going to buy the bag off Amazon, I will have linked one of the authorized resellers resellers. When all else fails, go to Veto Pro Pac's website and purchase from there. Now, I know that you have preferences on what tools you use. I want to hear what things you would have included in here that I haven't already. If you have versions of these particular tools that you'd like to see tried out, let me know and I'll go ahead and give it a try and kind of give you my opinion on it. As always, if you like the video, go ahead and hit that like button. If you have any questions or comments, leave them down in the comments below. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing and make sure to turn on notifications so you get notified when I put out new content. But as always, thank you for the support, and until next time, I'll catch you on Tinker with Tools.